The time was 6:42 a.m. when a faint stream of scorched espresso was released after the coffee maker sputtered to life and let off the recognizable hiss. I was already dressed, looking at the yellowing calendar that was glued to my refrigerator, wearing slacks that I hadn't pressed and a cardigan with one loose button. I circled the date with my finger, as if it may provide me with an answer, and mumbled, March 18th. Outside, the sidewalks were lightly covered with snow, not enough to delay traffic, but enough to create a slight hush. Even the birds hesitate on such a morning. As usual, my radio was set to NPR, and a calming voice was reciting predictions for the midterm elections. I just listened in part. The open notebook on the kitchen counter caught my attention. It had the pitch notes for today, which had been updated twice and highlighted in red. Half of the building's bones still groaned like newsprint, and by 7:25 I was opening the frosted glass door of Beacon Tribune Digital, the type of media company that still had a fax machine just in case. I had spent 17 years here, long enough for no one to recall my employer. My title at work, Coordinator of Senior Editorial Systems. This just means that I keep things together and receive no recognition for it. I wasn't a journalist, I wasn't a byline. I was the woman who trained every intern remembered everyone's birthdays, patched faulty CMS code at 2 in the morning, and cleaned up the pieces after every change in leadership. The office had the odor of faded ambition and old toner. I walked by the bulletin board that had pictures from holiday parties posted up. In one of the photos, a person's lifted champagne flute cut off my face, in a sense symbolic. After setting my bag down at my desk, which had been in the same corner since 2011, I turned on my computer. It seemed like it was sighing with that deep hum. A picture of our first significant viral hid a lengthy piece about rural school closures that I had assisted in repackaging and optimizing to go national, remained as my desktop backdrop. It had been someone else's byline. Naturally, as our youngest hire shuffled in his hair, moist from his riding helmet, I murmured, "Good morning, Cam." He smiled and said, "Hey, Miss Dawson." I detested that Miss Dawson gave me the impression that I was a substitute teacher for someone. Still, I grinned. He was kind eager, reminded me of who I was at the beginning, before I figured out how to minimize my thoughts in meetings so that someone else could find them afterward. I opened Slack and glanced over the messages. The opinions area of CMS is experiencing another downtime, another fire to extinguish. Muscle memory took over as I entered commands into the back-end panel. Automatically, my hands were fixed, reset, and patched. Then I heard it. The executive wing printer spitting out a single page was the sound that always heralded bad news here. Not a report in bulk, not a schedule for the press. Only one page. Even before I saw it, I knew I received the calendar invite at 9:12 a.m. Meeting with the editorial director and HR at 10:00 a.m. in the Delta conference room. No topic, no background. With my heart pounding, I reclined. I have seen how they accomplished this before. Silently, formally, as if someone were calling you in for a root canal. I didn't panic though. Not because I didn't feel afraid. However, something inside of me had changed recently. It wasn't a profound realization. It's more like erosion. It took me months to realize that I was preserving a building that no one could recall, having assisted in creating. I woke up, got my coffee, went past the framed newspaper about our Emmy nomination on the wall, and headed to the conference room. That whole piece had been ghost edited by me, assisted the reporter in organizing the information, locating sources, and developing the story. He wrote his name in gold letters. They never brought up mine. I went by our editorial director, Ethan Caldwell's office in the hallway. The type of guy who constantly left the dishes in the community sink and used terms like synergy. He used to refer to me as his secret weapon, but secrets are easily forgotten. I stopped in front of the door, inhaled deeply, and entered. When I entered, Conference Room Delta. Ethan Caldwell and Caroline from HR were the only two individuals present. Caroline supplied the business smile that HR staff members are required to practice in front of the mirror, firm but kind. Her blazer was too tight, and I could tell right away that this was a delivery rather than a chat, based on how her manila folder was set up on the table. Ethan took a moment to glance at me. His eyes darted between the coffee table and an unseen spot on the wall behind me, as he sat there with his fingers interlaced like a man at confession. He began with my first name, Lena, as if it were a soft landing. This is challenging, like clockwork. Caroline dove right in. The digital departments are undergoing a comprehensive reorganization. Following a thorough analysis, we have decided to remove some roles, including yours. I waited for my chest to tremble. It never arrived. Ethan continued to avoid eye contact. Performance isn't important. You've been amazing. We all know that without you, the systems wouldn't function. However, we must streamline due to the new budget and the change in leadership. I took a quick look at the folder. Severance is clearly defined. For each year of service, 2 weeks of remuneration benefits for a period of 60 days. Career coaching is available. The words became hazy and then sharpened once again. For this work, I had to miss my niece's graduation. During my father's chemotherapy infusions, I had answered calls. I had devoted holidays to troubleshooting code that no one else was aware of. I was now streamlined. I quietly said, I understand, as yelling wouldn't change the previous 17 years. At last, Ethan raised his head. His eyes were shiny, but not because he felt bad, out of relief. Thank you for the opportunity, I murmured, as I stood up and brushed my cardigan, as if she had never seen grace before. Caroline blinked. Tears were to be expected, perhaps pleading outrage. Perhaps I didn't give them anything. Though since I had knowledge that they did not, I had lunch with the CTO of Northline Media Systems Beacon's main rival 3 weeks ago. After I gave a silent speech at a university alumni panel, a woman named Reena Patel got in touch with me. She had remarked, I've been following your work from a distance, and honestly, it's astonishing that you remain concealed beneath Ethan Caldwell's veil. I dismissed it at first. My armor had always been loyalty. However, there were fractures in that shell from years of being ignored, as I anchored the back end without anybody noticing, while newer, louder voices jumped past me. Reena wasn't seeking retribution, she was giving vision command. An empty canvas, I thus registered. Silently, head of strategy and platform integrity. 3 months of preparation meetings that are discreet, a good wage, and more significantly, the opportunity to create my own team. The meeting today wasn't a funeral. It was a liberation. Returning to my workstation, I sat down and gazed at the binder clip that held my oldest folder, which had project briefs, bug reports, and system maps that I had manually created in 2010. One worn-out binder clip still carrying out its duties. I packed my belongings into a box. That afternoon, notebooks, that binder clip, and a mug with the words, "Not all heroes wear press badges." After a successful site move, they prepared a frame certificate which I left behind. My name was spelled incorrectly. Cam, the young man from before, was watching me from the kitchen area as I turned in my badge to the security station. What happened? He mouthed. I shrugged a little. The type that declared, it's done. And perhaps it's all right. The snow had ceased outside. A gentle icy blue has replaced the clear sky. I breathed the air as if it were my own again. I would enter a different office tomorrow. Not as a background hero, fixer, or assistant. However, as a leader. However, today I allowed myself to feel the sting today. The defeat. The slight concealed in business etiquette. I drove quietly home. No music, No NPR, only the sound of ice melting off the windshield and the slight buzz of my car's engine. I drank a glass of wine and went over the severance letter once more that evening. I then gently folded it, slipped it beneath the binder clip and muttered, "When they failed to hold me together, you did. You're accompanying me." The new office was located in a renovated firehouse, which had high ceilings, brick walls, and open beams that allowed sunshine to flood the space. It had an espresso and sawdust scent. The culture of Northline Media Systems was very different. No gatekeeping titles, no designated workstations. Only the following was written with a sloppy marker on a large whiteboard in the main room. Fail quickly. Fix it more quickly. Be truthful. For the first time in years, it felt like actual air. With an unscripted smile, Rena welcomed me at the door. "Hello, Lena. When you're ready, so are we." My name was stenciled onto salvaged wood on a desk, rather than carved onto gold or glass, my throat still constricted. Then I caught sight of her. Julia was slumped over a screen in the corner, entering code frantically, as if it were her rent. She had sharper eyes and shorter hair than I remembered, but I recognized her posture from anywhere. She was the intern that no one wanted to mentor 3 years ago. She had joined my squad at Beacon, but everyone save me soon forgot about her. She was quite intelligent, but anxious. She was shaken after a lengthy run of employment where her voice was ignored. I recalled how she would wait for me to talk while hovering at my door with her notebook in hand. I also recalled how she blossomed when I told her, "Just show me what you have. Don't ask. Jules." I spoke quietly. She pivoted. The eyes grew wide. "Lena." She sprang to her feet quickly, toppling a water bottle in the process. "Are you the person Rena has been referring to?" I grinned. "It depends on what she has said." She let out a full, unrepentant chuckle. "She created this department because of you, as well as the reason I remained in IT. Something changed within me. I was unaware of her presence. I had no idea that I had sown seeds that would grow in unexpected places." I remarked, "I don't think anyone noticed back then." She gave a head shake. "You observed. That is the reason I remain here. I jumped right in for the next few weeks. As a head of platform integrity and strategy, my title was more about protection than prestige. It was my responsibility to make sure Northline's infrastructure could grow without breaking down. In actuality, however, I was also creating something less obvious, a place where nobody had to struggle to be heard. That first weekend, I sent 6 emails. They were all names I remembered from my mental ledger, people I had coached, trained, or defended at Beacon editors, programmers, and writers. I kept it brief. A new chapter, new guidelines. I want to construct something with individuals who were previously prohibited from occupying space. When you're ready, let's speak. 4 responded by the end of Sunday night. 2 had signed on by Tuesday. Jules then sent me a Slack ping on Thursday. "Hey, did you notice the layoffs at Beacon?" I blinked. Twitter was opened. The feed was covered with it. 25% of the digital team will be let off as part of Beacon Tribune's Phase 2 restructuring. I saw a name, Cam, he had shared. I didn't think a Monday memo would cause my job to disappear. "I'm listening, if anyone is hiring." My chest constricted. Cam. The child who always addressed me as Miss Dawson, the person who once rode in on a bike during a snowfall to fix an issue in Mobile View. Then immediately beneath that, an Ethan Caldwell response. "Cam, you were always a huge contribution. Tell me how I can be of assistance." I gazed. My role was streamlined by the same Ethan who had interrupted me in the middle of saying that my work was irreplaceable. In my stomach, something chilly uncoiled. Not rage, not retaliation. Recognition. Cam was not being assisted by Ethan, he was putting him through his paces, seeming sympathetic to attempt to salvage what little reputation he still had. I clicked on a new tab, wrote a draft of a message. Cam, I have been keeping up with your work. Perhaps what I'm creating will fit you more than Beacon ever did. There is no pressure. Simply, if you're prepared to be noticed, get in touch. I didn't press the send button. Not quite yet. Because that evening, when I was by myself in my apartment, with the binder clip still on my desk, I began to consider what I had not yet permitted myself to face. Ethan didn't make me mad. I was upset at myself for remaining silent, for minimizing myself, for assuming that being professional required accepting every setback as a necessary part of the work. The reality I had developed more than merely beacon systems. One had been me, invisible, trustworthy, not given enough credit. Furthermore, when systems get too adept at operating in silence, nobody realizes they're gone until everything breaks. The metal edges of the binder clip were smooth from years of use when I held it in my palm. A tool that was made to retain things temporarily, until something more robust arrived rather than permanently. Perhaps I had been that person. Perhaps it was time to let go of everything and begin constructing something that didn't require one person to support it. The smell of frigid air and strong cinnamon coffee filled Monday morning. On my desk, Jules had placed a steaming mug just the way I liked it. I was taken aback by the simple gesture. I glanced at the whiteboard behind me, where preliminary drawings of the new platform had been scrawled. A mess of scrawled names feature modules and arrows, the bones of a large creature. Something that belongs to us. I sent the message to Cam at last. After 3 hours, he responded, I'm not sure if I'm prepared. However, I'm sick of being afraid. Can we have a conversation? He was wearing the same oversized hoodie I recalled from his Beacon days by Wednesday when he arrived at our office. He looked about the room as if he wasn't sure if this was genuine. Cam, I grinned. Happy to see you here. For a minute he stood clumsily at the door. I assumed you were joking about wanting me here. I wasn't, I said. You're doing fine. You care more than that, though it's not as common as people believe. He blinked quickly. I kept thinking at Beacon that maybe someone would notice if I just put in more effort. Slowly I nodded. I understand how you feel. I experienced it. I gave a contract to him. Brief. Simple words. Competitive compensation. No probationary terms. No bullshit. I informed him, you'll have a say in what you build. Don't simply carry out someone else's plan. As he signed, his hands shook a little. Suddenly, Jules, Cam, and 2 other people who had previously passed through the same quiet hallways as me made up the nucleus of the new squad. I brought a proposal and a pile of papers into Rena's office that afternoon. Do you have a seat? I inquired. She arched an eyebrow. Should I be? The folders fell to her desk. This is the next generation of platform integrity created by individuals who were previously prohibited from completing their sentences. She glanced over the pages. Are you suggesting a subdivision cross-functional independence? I gave a nod. We won't merely fix bugs. By incorporating the appropriate voices from the start, we will stop them. She raised her head. This is a bold move. It's past due. She grinned. Take action. Suddenly, I was doing more than just creating systems. I was constructing change-related infrastructure. However, change isn't always easy. A week later, I received an email from the managing editor of Beacon, who I hardly knew at the time. This was the subject line, quick coffee. I choose to disregard it. I received another the following day. You've taken half of our strategy team. Let's at least comprehend why I also didn't reply to that. Thus, the response wasn't a catchphrase. It happened each time someone missed a deadline and was not eligible for a bonus. Each time a manager was trained and then blamed for the manager's failure, I was informed. You're too valuable to promote. Every time they weren't worthy of an explanation. However, those who are presently with me did. We convened the first team-wide planning meeting that Friday in the main conference room. The wind outside tapped lightly on the large windows, and the heater hissed in the background. I distributed notebooks. Paper, not laptops, since I wanted them to record something in writing. I said, don't list your skills. Explain what Beacon didn't see in you. The item you are still carrying, at first they were silent. Then Cam wrote, I discovered gaps they were unaware of. Jules wrote, the system failure was something I could foresee, before the logs did. Another person wrote, when everyone else went home, I continued to run the newsroom. I took a deep breath. I said, these are your superpowers. We're going to construct something that will never ask you to conceal them again. I stayed up late that weekend to organise my office's post-it wall. At some time, I extracted the binder clip from my bag. It's still there. A few ancient beacon system maps, and the severance letter are still intact. I gazed at it. I flipped it in my palm. I then attached it with a clip to the whiteboard's upper corner. A gentle reminder, we no longer bear the burden alone. The following morning, Cam showed up early. He paused before the binder clasp and grinned. You held on to that. I gave a nod. It is a remnant, an eyewitness. When no one else would, it kept my entire career together. He gazed at it for a while, then stated, I thought they would protect me if I was flawless. I gave him a look. Did they? No. However you remain here, he gave a nod. I whispered, so now we protect each other. An email was the first step. Subject Lena Dawson Mentorship Grant Nomination approved. Unbeknownst to me, Rena had quietly submitted it behind the scenes. An annual campaign to help mid-career women in technology who have been marginalised, ignored, or silenced by their organisations. The board made a unanimous decision. I spent a lot of time looking at the screen. My name is inscribed on a permanent object. Not as a result of my demand, but because piece by silent piece, I had earned it. Congratulations, Lena, was scrawled by someone when I entered the Monday leadership meeting with a green marker on the whiteboard. Below, Cam had sketched a small binder clip with a happy face. When I saw that everyone laughed, although I wasn't the first to laugh, I merely gazed. I felt a soft, non-painful fracture open inside me, similar to light passing through stained glass. Who was that person? I inquired. Sheepishly, Jules held out her hand. I ran out of ink, but I still wanted to add a cape. Warm laughter erupted once more in the room. And me. At last, I grinned broadly, not the courteous grin that I had worn for years. An actual one. Ethan sent me a note on LinkedIn a week later. He didn't say much. No salutations, no goodbye. I understand what you're doing. Your point is clear. I didn't reply, so I closed them, because there was never a point to be made. It has to do with creating a space where being noticed doesn't require begging, where learning, not punishment, is the response to mistakes, where individuals like me, Cam and Jules, don't have to shrink in order to fit in. It was 2 months later. Signal was the moniker we gave to the beta version of our software. Cam decided on that name because, in his words, it's what we never got from them. Clarity, it surpassed all expectations. Customers took notice. Investors took note. The incident that stuck with me the most, though, was when I saw Cam standing motionless in the break room one afternoon and gazing at the binder clip on the whiteboard. Do you ever consider what might have happened if they had treated you better? He asked, glancing at me. I stopped. Occasionally, I said, but not frequently. He arched an eyebrow, because we would still be there quietly surviving instead of fully living. I went on, If they had, he gave a nod. Indeed, that sounds accurate. Jules stopped me in the corridor that evening as I was leaving the workplace. She extended a tiny box. What is this? I inquired. Open it. There was a mirror-shined brass binder clip within. She smiled. We had it made to order, core made of stainless steel. Laser engraved, "You held us," was written in 3 words. On the inside lip, I remained silent. Couldn't. My throat constricted very quickly. Silently, Jules said, "We'll hold you now." I held that box tightly in both hands as I walked home. It wasn't hefty, however, it strangely raised them as well, carrying the weight of 17 years. We placed the original binder clip next to a picture of our new team's first 5 members within a shadow box. Next to the mission statement we had co-rewritten, we hung it beside the office door. We construct what we would like to have. We lead the way. We would like to be led. And until nobody collapses by themselves, we hold each other. That's the tale. No headlines that go viral, no legal action, no spectacular takedowns, only a firm, silent reclamation valuable of speech of the future. The Beacon Tribune is still in operation, but more subdued, smaller. When I last spoke with him, Ethan had shifted to consulting. What about us? Our 4th national partner was just inked. Next quarter we'll be relocating to a larger workplace. Jules is now in charge of her own group. Cam recently delivered his first keynote address at a conference. And me? With coffee in hand and my heart full, I settle in a sunny corner with a binder clip in its glass case close by. Thus, I avoided causing rifts. I constructed a better road, and I respond as follows when people inquire as to whether I regret remaining unseen for so long. No, because it helped me learn how to see other people. And that's how you create something durable. Legacy note. 6 months later, the first round of applications for the Lena Dawson Mentorship Grant opened. More than 300 people submitted applications. The initial beneficiary, a former shop employee who secretly programmed in between hours. Suddenly there was another story in the binder clip.